The world is increasingly unthinkable. A world of planetary disasters, emerging pandemics, tectonic shifts, strange weather, oil-drenched seascapes, and the furtive, always-looming threat of extinction. In spite of our daily concerns, wants, and desires, it is increasingly difficult to comprehend the world in which we live and of which we are a part. To confront this idea is to confront an absolute limit to our ability to adequately understand the world at all. An idea that has been a central motif of the horror genre for some time. In the dust of this planet.
In the dust of this fucking shithole planet. Original title. Yeah. By Eugene Thacker. This one was first published in 2011. And for the first couple of years it sat around on the shelf gathering dust. But after True Detective, suddenly it became popular. And I don't know whether it was before or after, but Jay-Z and some actress I've never fucking heard of called Lily Collins both wore the t-shirt. Yeah. I don't know what significance that really... I mean, the title is fucking cool. In the dust of this planet. It's, I could see why people wear that. A gentleman called Glenn Beck brought a lot of attention to it. He's some fear-mongering cunt over in America. And he kind of presents news. Let's see what he had to say.
Of an obscure author who wrote a book called In the Dust of the Planet. In the Dust of the Planet.
It's right in front of you, Glenn. Have a look. It's called In the Dust of This Planet. Not the...
And it explains the nihilistic worldview.
Nihilism? No!
So, back to this obscure little book on nihilism. When you take Darwin and you couple it with nihilism and then progressivism, we've been down this nihilist road before, and it does not ever end well.
Super nihilist, bro!
Progressives, in particular, are masterful at infecting the culture and making their views become cool and the norm. Suddenly, this obscure book is everywhere. It's in fashion magazines. It's cool to be a nihilist.
Kind of interesting to stick progressivism and nihilism in the same sentence. Kind of doesn't really make any fucking sense when you think about it. Oh, I'm an optimistic misanthropist, or I'm a paradoxical straight shooter. Doesn't make any sense. But yeah, there you go. At least he brought it some attention, so in a weird way he kind of absolved himself with his ridiculous comments about the book because he brought attention to it, which is kind of ironic, but there you go. So, what the fuck is the book about? It's about the unthinkable, which kind of makes this review unreviewable or unrateable or something. The beginning, as my wonderful impression of Batman just then, is the kind of introduction to it. But yeah, Thacker goes on to discuss that the relationship between philosophy and horror should not be taken to mean the philosophy of horror, but more the opposite, the horror of philosophy, where we as humans reach our limitations through our knowledge and intelligence and whatnot, and the horror that comes with that of not being able to really know what the fuck we're thinking about, really. Does he do a good job of it? I'd say so overall. The first 2/3 of this book are really good, really nice. I especially enjoyed the kind of introduction to it and the different parts about Dante, the Inferno, the Circle of Hell, and there's another part that talks about the Faustian Pact kind of idea where you have the kind of circle in a room and then you're summoning shit from the other dimensions and all that kind of stuff. And the reason he goes on about that is, well, from the introduction he talks about 3 different types of worlds. So we've got the world for us, which is the world we meander around in doing our bullshit, self-destructing and destroying the planet, but pretending that we're trying to save it. And the second one is the world in itself, which is basically just how the world is, and we are a part of that. And I kind of think this works in a way. So you've got the world for us, then there's the world in itself, but then so we can know a bit about the world in itself, but there's a limitation still, and we can't quite cross over it completely because we are, well, you know, basically abandoned by our own nature, which I've said before, but I like the phrase, and I think I've written it a couple of times now as well. So yeah, I'm already out of ideas, and I'm only 2 books in. Great. So then you've got this world in itself kind of stuck in the middle, and on the reverse is what Thacker really wants to talk about. I don't know why I went this way, it's super uncomfortable. So this is the world without us, which should not be mistaken for the world as if we are extinct, but more a world that exists with us, still operates as if we already don't exist. Lovely. But well, maybe it is a fucking lovely thought, to be honest. I don't know. I'm always juggling those two thoughts around at the moment. I think I'm losing my fucking mind. And these books don't really help with that at times, I have to admit. As much as they kind of get my juices flowing, at times I'm kind of left going, fuck! But yeah. So this world without us, what's it all about? Basically, the reason it goes into the kind of supernatural horror genre is that's its main focus. You can call it cosmological horror or Lovecraftian or whatever, but it's basically looking into the world beyond, in a sense. So the things, and how Thacker does that is by diving into demonology and occultism and, you know, topics of that nature. And he does it pretty damn well. I mean, it's a very fascinating book, and I would recommend it to anyone who wants to write horror. If you're already into kind of the whole nihilism thing's a bit, I mean, it's taken completely out of context, and that Beck guy doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. He probably doesn't really know what nihilism is. So, you know, he's just preaching to his flock. So, kind of pointless. I mean, you could look at it as a kind of nihilistic piece of literature, but I don't really think it's that. It's more just exploring the kind of elements of supernatural horror and what makes it up and all those kind of things. So it talks about, you know, for instance, it's not mentioned in this, but the Willows would be a good one as an example, as it explores two dudes on a boat, and they're kind of in the middle of this place that they can't really recognise, and there's all this kind of the elements are kind of doing their own thing, and the Willows themselves almost seem to be talking to them in a weird way or trying to communicate something to them, but because it's so obscure and abstract that they can't possibly hope to understand it. And that's where the horror is drawn from. So, like when we try and understand what the hell we're doing here, really, because no one has a fucking clue. And Thacker uses a few horror films which are pretty cool. I haven't seen any of them because a lot of them were filmed between the 50s and 80s, I think, if my memory serves. And he talks about stuff that, one of my favourite parts actually, before I go, was about things existing within elements which we are already aware of. So say mist or oil or things of those kind of natures where it's got a material substance. But the thing which is terrifying, I'm going to put this down, is the fact that the sentience, if you will, that lives within these creatures that kind of come to life. Look, some of them are like the blob. So it would be something that kind of grows out of some weird kind of gooey substance and gunk and that kind of stuff. But it obviously has an agenda. It works kind of like a virus, which moves around and usually attacks humans, because it's always a human-based kind of idea in these pieces, where it's what the horror of that would mean for us rather than the virus itself. And the only real agenda this kind of thing has is to wipe out humanity, is normally the kind of narrative. What I found fascinating about that is the way it can exist, but it's hidden from us within its observation, which is it's a mindfuck kind of well, it's mindfuck territory, really. I mean, the whole thing is trying to think about thought beyond the spectrum of thought. So it kind of gets a bit headfucky at times, you know. And it's, for the most part, it's quite accessible, I would say. I think it's a little bit head trippy at times because he does use a lot of the same kind of phrases. So he goes on from going about the world for us, the world in itself, and the world without us, but then he also talks about the earth and the world and the planet and all that kind of stuff, so he kind of double layers it a little bit, and the subtlety of Thacker's writing doesn't really lean you towards any side or any kind of foregone conclusions. It's more of a kind of open discussion, and for the reader to take away what they will, as Ligotti said about it, really, and I think he was quite spot on about that. So when I say it's accessible, for the most part, yeah, but as it goes on, and there are certain moments where he's talking about like ontological themes and shit like that, where it does get a bit like, where was I? So yeah, there's a little kind of word of warning, but aside from that, it's a great piece. And yeah, if you're interested in writing supernatural horror, I think it's a great addition to have on your shelf. It's something you can kind of read in doses in a way, because it's not really something that's super accessible and really, you know, you don't dive straight into it. So yeah, it's just a good one to have for when you can kind of pick and choose which parts you like. The latter third of it, it kind of gets a bit wish-washy for me. He talks about a poem that's apparently circulated all over the intertubes, and it's kind of, that talks a lot more about the kind of unthinkableness of the world. That's not a word, but never mind. But it goes into such technical scientific jargon that, for me, unless I really looked it up and researched it, my patience was wearing a bit thin at that point, and I wanted the book to end. And I've read it twice, so I don't think that's going to change the third time around, which I probably still will pick it up again, because the ideas in it are kind of ones you want to reinforce to really fully grasp. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. The winner of the giveaway, if you're a subscriber, this is the first time you might have heard of this. So yeah, I'm going to be doing giveaways every 3 reviews. I don't know how long for, because I'm too poor to really do it, but I feel like trying to dish out these kind of books a bit more, because I want more people to read them and discuss them and think about them and shit like that. So the winner was something 2 gals and a book, I think. Let me just check. This is how dedicated I am to the cause. But I did pick a winner. I'm shit with names. 2 gals and a book. Well done, you won. I'm going to send you an email, and you can pick between the 3 I've already reviewed, or you can have one of mine. Hey, maybe you want one of mine, eh? Maybe. I doubt it. But yeah, my own stuff, actually. I feel like I should mention this. Sourced Up is an anthology of transgressive fiction, and the duality it kind of goes for is comedy within horror, or horror within comedy. So, and a lot of people keep telling me it's fucking horrific, man, you know, and uncensored. And for me, it's normal. So, I don't know what that says about me, to be honest. And Fubar is of a similar ilk. I think it's a natural progression from this anthology, but it's a lot more hard-hitting, and it tackles some pretty controversial themes, but still within sexuality. Oh yeah, there's a fuckload of sex. So if that's your thing, but not in a sexy, oh, I'm going to jack off to this way, although I do know one person who has. But yeah, I don't think it will get your rocks off personally, but it's kind of talking about the kind of grim side of it. And other people have said that it's got a lot of bodily fluids in it. So yeah, it's pretty transgressive. Yeah, super transgressive, man. And yeah, I don't know which book you want, really. Mine, you know, Fubar is out. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye. That's right, I stayed up all night and dived myself balls deep in some Nietzsche memes, so I know all there is to know about fucking nihilism.